also a journalist with us here. By the comrade, I know he's also a unionist. It's a trade union. But so it's a fantastic panel that we have here, helping us to make sense of what is happening right here. It's an, to look at. And I should add that Dr. Toji Oguyemi is an associate professor of economic history from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. So, we are benefiting from their insight and experiences this day. And it's afternoon already here in Osun State. I'm sure in every other part of Nigeria. But so let's begin to take the other reports that we have now. We'll be taking reports from our guys on the field. We'll also be taking reports from all over the country. We'll be speaking to some of our partners also who are working with us for these elections. I understand that we have some reports from Port Harcourt, Rivers State Capital, regarding the governor of Wike, where some people call the emperor. Some Wike had some challenges voting. Someone mischievously said maybe karma, I don't know. But let's get to see. Okay, so you can say that some Wike trying to understand that the Beavers had some challenges recognizing his fingerprints. I will get updates about that if it was resolved. Incidentally, it was with his wife. Himself and his wife had issues with the Beavers recognizing him. And if judging by the conversation I had with the rec here in Osun, so they said, no matter who you are, even if you have the president, if the Beavers doesn't recognize your fingerprints and cannot recognize your face through the facial recognition, you will not vote. So there is no option for incident forms anymore in an electoral process. So that's for you some week. I don't know if you have any sound up to that. If not, we just move on to the protest. There was a protest at... Okay, so let's move on to Abuja, where somewhere in Lugbe, there was a protest at the center in Abuja. This is a crowd, a sizable crowd here. And the challenge with the functionality of the Beavers. But what INEC promised us was that if there's any challenge anywhere, the response time of the technical team to resolve that. But, centers like these, INEC promised that there will be no center that will have, maybe I'm using the Osun example anyway, was that there will not be, centers that will be too much populated, with over 1,000 or 1,500 voters, But what we're seeing here, there is a huge turnout of voters in this unit. Something is evidently wrong here. Something is evidently wrong here. I'm sure that INEC will attend to that. Well, let's move on. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo also voted Ward 11, Unit 15 in Abeokuta North local government. He voted and he also spoke to journalists. Let's take a listen to him. Olusegun Obasanjo.
Any new thing that will help the credibility, the integrity of the process, I saw it that it worked because they did. I'm going to look at it and they look at it and my photo came out. That I am making is that anything that we do that helps we're here.
Right, so for Vice President Yemi Osinbajo also casting his vote here, his hometown, Ikene, in Ikene local government area of Ogun State. You remember he was one of those who vied for the ticket for the candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the party primaries mid last year. Okay, so from here we'll go to Benue State. Samuel Otom of Benue State, who broke ranks with his G5 partner governors and pitched his tent with Peter Obi. We wait to see, the jury is out we wait to see what impact that endorsement for Peter Obi will have on the voting numbers for Peter Obi from Benue State. But here he is voting, and he's a senatorial candidate himself, in Benue. Lots of interesting dynamics here that we didn't talk about here. So look at the dynamics of some Wike tacitly supporting tacitly supporting Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Rivers. We wait to see if that will affect the numbers, in Rivers, one of you. So that's let's see. We have for the former deputy governor of Osun State, Erelu Olushola Obada, also spoke to our reporter, Joseph Atewe. Let's get to listen to that.
This is still the live coverage of the general elections, and from Western Spring Television and Wave 91.7 FM. My name is Joseph Atewe, and of course, as you can see beside me, I have Honorable Erelu Obada, a key figure when it comes to political matters in the state, and she's ready to talk to us this morning in regards to the elections. Now let me start with the preparedness of INEC. How prepared do you think INEC is?
Well, from what I've seen on ground so far, I think they were very well prepared, and everything seems to be going peacefully. The accreditation, the voting, the whole process is flawless, at least for now.
Some will argue that during the governorship election, the turnout seems it looks more than we're having right now. In terms of the turnout, is it low, or maybe it's too early to even conclude?
I think we had a good turnout during the governorship elections, and we are also having a very good turnout today. As you can see, many people have already voted. Since the polls opened, I think around 8 o'clock, a lot of people have voted, lounging around, as you can see, and there are still many people on the queue. So I believe that INEC was well prepared, and here it is working well, and we thank God for that.
Let's talk about one very sensitive issue, because we just left Ife, and we noticed there was a massive vote buying, which we saw and have on cameras. Let's talk about vote buying in this polling unit. Has it been happening, ma'am?
As you can see, nobody is buying anything. Many people are on that queue. Many of us have voted already, and I don't think anybody here has been induced by any money. Anyway, it's even the money. But, in terms of commitment and loyalty to their party, they are on the queue and they are voting.
And finally, just before we let you go back, let's talk about security officials. How effective has it been here so far? Because with what we can see, we have just one who's standing right in front of us here.
A lot of people have been coming and going. They don't stay here because they still have to go to other places. They have come here, they've been coming, they've been going, they've been coming, they've been going. He just came now, and as you can see, there is peace everywhere. There's no problem. And in case there is, God forbid, if there's anything untoward, I'm sure that you can calm our people down so that it does not degenerate into something nasty. So, yeah, there's peace here.
I must thank you for your time.
Right, so Joseph Atewe, the Rave FM's Joseph Atewe with Erelu Olushola Obada, former deputy governor of Osun State, giving us own insight about the electoral process this morning. He said, well, everything has been fine for her, and said the turnout is also almost the same as we had with the governorship election. I don't know. I mean, is there going to be any impact about the fact that Osun people voted some 6 months? Is there anything like voting fatigue?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It is too early in the day that the turnout is less than what we experienced during the gubernatorial election. I think the issue is about people just enjoying the peace and voting at their own time.
Mr. Ademiloye.
Yes, I go along with Dr. Oguyemi, but I'd like to emphasize, I'm always emphasizing that I don't think people are voting for voter league. I think a lot of people will do last-minute voting. Yeah. And you can still vote as long as you're on the queue at 2:30. But there's a key question that I always point out when we discuss these issues, that you have to look at variations for states with large tertiary institutions like Osun and Ogun states. So if you look at number of tertiary institutions and the number of students there in Osun and Ogun, it's rather disproportionate to most of the country. Yeah. And with the things we were discussing earlier on, that, with this shutdown of tertiary institutions, it's bound to have an effect on turnout, because a student who had to go leave the halls of residence cannot go to, let us say, Ilaro, and then come back to vote. It's going to cost money to come back. Then you might want to stay in a hotel, and even if the cheapest hotel is 5,000, it's still a big budget.
Mr. Babalona.
Well, I want to agree with Mama Irelu. You know, she said that there was a very good turnout in the last gubernatorial election. But this time I said very good. So it was very, I'm on the same page with her. And perhaps what could have made people to come out today may be because of what is ongoing politically in Osun State regarding the judgment.
I'm sure that could be a factor
Sincerely
here.
yours.
You know, but like Doctor said, it wouldn't be too early for us to conclude about the turnout, maybe until when votes have closed.
And that is the more reason I dwell on what those who are at the scene of the event, or everything, they are coming, what they are saying. I only want to stay with that. People, they came out as expected.
Okay, but I mean, generally speaking, looking at what's happening, would you say we've had a fairly good run? Not many major incidents at least reported about any disruption. There are concerns about security even here in Osun State. I spoke to the Commissioner of Police for the election here in Osun, Peter Abayomi, and he said he admitted that about 4 local governments in Idisha land were identified as hotspots. Ilesha East and West, Atagmasa East and West, but we've not had anything untoward so far.
I think Nigerians have proved naysayers very wrong. The issue that we have to do, I mean, even the issue that has been beamed to us now, the apprehensive issues with respect to Abuja, it is an issue that could be related to a disruption in the supply chain of logistics, such as, for example, the NSCDC vehicle conveying electoral materials to a particular place but had an accident. I mean, the people that are the receiving end, that is those whose materials
the papers were meant to serve,
of course, will be apprehensive and then begin to show some concern. Yes, but then you look in terms of proportion. What is the proportion of people that are in such a situation relative to the general? I mean, you can dismiss it as insignificant. The reason is that, generally speaking, as far as Nigerians are concerned now, at least since 8:30 up to this afternoon, there has not been any significant case of a disruption or violence or even anyone slapping the other.
Okay, so I guess we do. Mr. Ademile wants to say
I wanted to say something here.
Yes.
I think that I agree that we have debunked the naysayers, but it's also important to ask why we have debunked them.
Yeah.
We must give commendation to the government and the security agencies. It's early days, because it is now obvious that if the government is determined to secure the country, they will. The question is whether the political will is there. The fact of the matter is that all the flashpoints that we've been expecting, you know, when we were on break, I spoke to one of my sons and my wife, and they voted. All of them voted in Yaba today, and to them it was just like any ordinary Sunday, not even Saturday. That, you know, people were just voting and then going back to watch Premiership or whatever. I think that this day shows that if a government in this country has the political will, it can be done. It is obvious that one good thing I give kudos to the government for, and this is not parties, I'm not a member of any political party, is that they actually gave out unambiguous signals, I think from about 3 weeks ago, that it was going to be no nonsense and that kind of thing. Because if you look at the amount of people in Lagos that were reined in, everybody knew all the troublemakers in Lagos. I don't want to use strong language on air. They sent an unambiguous message, which I wish governments have been sending since 1999. Everybody knows who the miscreants are in the flashpoint. The miscreants did not come from Togo or Niger Republic. Everybody living in an area. Even in my area in Yaba, I can tell you, when you are coming back at night, avoid that particular alley or something. So everybody knows where these guys are. But I give these people, it's early days, because, you know, but I give them kudos that they sent out the signal that they are not going to take any nonsense. And for that, it's early days, I give them kudos.
We may not be able to quickly conclude on the violence, but let me just put it this way, that in Nigeria, when you look at the pre-election, during the election and after election, you will see that there are centripetal and centrifugal forces that works together to bring about violence. But from what government is able to do today, well, we give them a cap. But let us watch closely again. Whatever we can see, and we can draw the conclusion.
All right, so I've been taking some reports from across the nation. The Punch is reporting that, in a particular voting area in Kogi, there's been some level of violence. Voters in Ogege Road, and the Punch said, as at the time of filing the report, voters and officials of INEC have all dispersed. They need to run to save their lives. And we also understand that 2 persons have been killed in Abia State, in Indiago community in Abam Aruchuku local government area of Abia State. It's reported that the casualties occurred during the Presidential and National Assembly polls holding today. One of the victims is identified as Samuel Arunsi Eze, and was said to have been beheaded by a political thug known as Daniel Ngba. And according to an eyewitness report, one of those involved in the killing has also been killed. That's report from Abia State. And there's one of our listeners called in during the break. He said somewhere in Waru that their ink finished. And so he's appealing that INEC rush down to their area to resupply ink. So we have a similar incident somewhere in Abuja. Ad-hoc officials conducting elections in polling unit 047 in Kubwa Primary School in Abuja, lamenting the lack of ink to use for election. The presiding officer, Kingsley Onuche, spoke to the Punch and he said, "We are given just 2 packs of inks for the 750 accredited voters in the polling units." And so 150 out of the 750 had voted as at the time of filing the report, and I think the ink finished. And now they are, it says some voters volunteer to use their money to buy ink. But the question is, will they be able to buy ink today? So, yes, everywhere shut down. So some are suggesting that they improvise with biro to improvise. I mean, I don't know how it works, but I feel that it's not good optics, because even for us journalists, unlike what INEC used to do in the past, where we have a full complement of gadgets, of materials given to us, we only got a tag this time. No reflective jackets, no caps, only the tags. Maybe it's rationing, maybe it's
budget,
paucity of funds or what have you. But that's the situation. We'll be giving you some more updates as we go about. So we're getting some reports about violence here. Very disturbing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr.
Yeah.
It's rude. I'm sorry about that. I actually wanted, I'm not the moderator. I wanted to ask Dr. Oguyemi, because he's a lawyer, that I've always been apprehensive about, please correct me if I'm misinterpreting the Electoral Act, that it will appear to me that the Electoral Act itself might be a problem. Because if my understanding is correct, that if there's violence in one area, you just cancel the vote.
Total cancellation. Yeah.
Now, if I'm contesting against Oladipo,
okay, sorry. We understand we have the interview of Peter Obi. We'll listen to what he said after voting in Anambra.
That's why if I have opportunity to serve, I serve the people and not steal their money, because it's by His grace. It wasn't by my power. The reason why people are here and are looking at me, by His grace. Yeah. If He takes it away, you won't be here.
Sir, what would be the very first thing you would do if you're elected president?
Don't use that phone now, cover everything now. Why?
The very first thing you would do if elected president?
Thank God. And care for the people.
What about otherwise?
It's by His grace.
Would you be willing to work with any other person if you're not elected president?
No, that won't come. But I'm not looking for a job. I'm a very contented person. I just want to serve the people. I want to show compassion. I want to love, to help the poor people out of poverty. My joy is in helping people, in living with people. That's it. Those who were here when I was governor, any of you was there when I was governor? I was. This is my friend, I can tell you. Yeah. When I was governor, He's a journalist. He was my friend. And he remained my friend. He can come to my house because I'm governor because God wanted me to be governor. Just like he wanted other people to live like this. So that's why, like I said, I'm happy living in my mother's house. And my brothers and everybody's happy.
Since you accept everybody, it means when we come to Anambra, we can as well visit.
Comfortably, ask anybody. Anytime you're here, if you want to visit me. You know, feel free.
So can we still take pictures with you when you're president?
Yes. If you can't do that, then let me tell you, if you can't do that, that's the end of the world. When we discriminate against people, the world ends. You should be able to be free with human beings, and they must be free with you. If you can't take picture with me, how will I know that things are good or bad?
All right, so Peter will be there, the candidate of the Labour Party. I mean, you heard him say he just wants to serve, and they asked him jokingly that after, if he becomes president, will still be able to take pictures with him.
Yes, that should be an aside, but it's also important in terms of emotional and social quotient. I think it is very good if the president of the country is approachable.
All right, so I understand. Do we have Ifeanyi Ogwe? We like to get to listen of a journalist based in Anambra State. Ifeanyi Ogwe joining us live on the line. And thank you so much for joining us on Wstv-Rave Fm Mandate 2023 studios.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Well, so, I mean, tell me, where have you been to today covering elections? You mind running us through some of the places you've been to in Anambra State?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me, Ifeanyi?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so, I mean, I'd like you to walk us through some of the places you've been to today covering elections in Anambra State.
Okay, basically, I've just been to the polling unit of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. I'm still on my way to the governor of Anambra State, Chukwuma Soludo. I've not met him, but voting at Amount to polling unit 19 Ward 2. Started at 8:40 a.m. Having the INEC officials arrive at 8 o'clock a.m. dot. So the accreditation and voting went on simultaneously. Immediately it was 8:40 a.m. So the villagers patrol
said in Amansi that voting started around 8:40 a.m. That's 10 minutes behind time. Is that the situation in all other places you've been to?
No, like I said before, I wasn't able to get to other places, but I called my colleagues there, and they said they didn't witness any voting until past 12 this afternoon. So I was wondering, so we're talking about St. Teresa Catholic Church, the 33 Onitsha, Ward 3, they started about past 12, and then any other places. Right now, we are at Soludo's place, the governor of Anambra State, and they just started voting at past 1.
That's in the polling unit.
The governor has not even voted, so we just arrived. We just got to his place, and we're trying to figure out where his polling unit is and the name of the polling unit.
So you're saying in the where is the hometown of Charles Soludo, the governor of Anambra State?
Hello?
Where is the hometown of Charles Soludo?
Polling unit you'll be using, the name of the particular polling unit.
Okay, but that particular polling unit you're talking about where they started after 1, was any reason given as to why they are starting late? And also the same as St. Teresa Catholic school in Onitsha, where they started around 12:40 or thereabout. Was any reason given as to why they started late?
Oh, well, they just said they were not able to get the materials, both sensitive and insensitive materials that they need to come along with talking about the INEC officials. That it was when they were able to get them that they started coming.
All right.
As soon as they arrived, they kicked off the application and voting. The beavers was working perfectly, and they kicked off with the voting exercise immediately.
All right, thank you. So just before we let you go, there's been concerns about security in the southeast. In the build-up to this election, number of places attacked, number of deaths recorded. Have you heard or have you witnessed since you started this morning?
Oh no, funny no, there's not been anything like that. Security is perfectly okay. No, there's no form of chaos or violence. Everybody we're just coming out from their houses, voting, and actually waiting for the results. We counted. Nobody is going home. From Agolo to the other places I've been to. After voting, they wait. Actually, everybody is still waiting for the results to be counted.
And so, what about the turnout? The people come out, there were concerns if people will not come out because of conflicting messages. Some people say IPOP threatening. Did we have a huge turnout from what you've seen today?
Yes. A lot of people came out to vote. The old, the physically challenged people, a lot of people came out. Trust me. It wasn't what I expected myself, but I'm impressed.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank you most sincerely, Ifeanyiwa Ugboe. Hopefully we'll join you again later to get some more update from Anambra State. But it's a pleasure talking to you, Ifeanyiwa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Also, some updates there. Interesting incidences, especially late commencement of polling.
Yes, but I thank Ugboe for showing us that the turnout has been very impressive. Very impressive. Late turnout, yes. Late turnout may not be intentional, may be influenced by unavoidable problems with respect of logistics. And this is possible. Don't forget, Nigeria is a very huge country. And the topography of some places can import some very difficult circumstances on electoral officials. So we take it that yes, there may be late voting.
Late as to midday, yes. 1 p.m.
Well, that's what is totally objectionable there, because it will affect the timing of when voting should actually end. Except if a person is still in the polling unit or polling house. You are not likely to be accepted after 2:30 in the line to be accredited, except if you're still there until the time. So that's why voting can go on for as long as 4 p.m. In some places. And this logistics issue should be a thing that the CSOs too, civil and social society organizations, should come in to render help. Evidence has shown that the government alone cannot effectively do any election in Nigeria in such a way that there won't be significant hiccups, except the civil society organizations, MacArthur Foundation, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and so many Nigerian organizations can come in to be of help, particularly logistics.
Yes, Mr. Komedemiloyi, perhaps what's responsible for it? Because I witnessed this, and maybe we'll come back to this. Keep my mind earlier on in conversation when they're talking about the turnout of voters. Anambra State elected their last governor 10%. With about, was it 10%?
10%
Quite one ridiculous, very ridiculous that time. So could that also have affected, maybe, because there are concerns, I had some reports, some people saying, well, I'm not going to allow my child who is supposed to be an ad hoc staff, who is serving in Anambra State to be part of the process. So we had last minute pull out for the governorship election. Could this also be part of what's responsible for what we have here for the late starting of...
I have no doubt that, because I think when we were talking earlier, I think it was in your office.
Yeah.
I was mentioning a nephew who pulled out in Katsina State, So I have no doubt, because the security situation, especially in Anambra, has been so bad in the last 2 years. that I won't be surprised if some people, at the advice of their parents, actually decided to pull out. But I think overall, Mr. Oladipo, there's a problem with logistics in Nigeria. And this is the problem with the misinterpretation of development in this country. For example, I'm sorry, I don't want to rake over old ones, but when a governor makes a big fanfare about constructing overhead bridges, I wonder about the development model, because frankly speaking, if I had the same money, I would prefer to construct rural roads and open up the agricultural produce areas, trigger off cottage industries, etc., etc. This is the well-known development model. So this development model of fixation on vanity projects, because it is obvious that we have not spent enough on infrastructure, especially the rural roads. We spend a lot on prestige roads. You get what I mean? Niger Delta, Second Niger Bridge, Lagos Ibadan. They are very important economic roads, but it's unfortunate that Babangida demarketed everything with his usual trademark corruption. Because I thought that DFRI, the Department for Rural Roads and stuff, was actually a very important, in fact, to me, probably the most important part of what a government should be doing. Because like Goldman Sachs, about 10 years ago, I think Jonathan was still the president then, not of Nigeria, worldwide, that 1 kilometer of a rural road has a multiplier effect of times 10. I remember that because we wrote an editorial on it when I was chairman of the editorial board of a national newspaper. And I think that part of this logistics slang, which is going to depress voter turnout and switch people off, is because of this, because we don't know where the governor's hometown is, but I can bet you that the rural roads are not as good as they should be. And this is replicating itself, obviously, across the country, because much of where we are picking up reports from are relatively stable urban areas. And I think as we go on through the day, we'll find that this country is a logistics nightmare because our order of priorities is skewed towards vanity and prestige projects. You get what I mean? And the famous title of Arunda Rai, which won so many prizes, she's an Indian novelist, said we should learn for development and other purposes to worship the God of small things. That small is beautiful. And you will worship all these overhead bridges, massive jaga. But, you know, like as far back as 1962, the French agronomist René Debray wrote his famous book, False Starts in Africa. False Starts in Africa was written when I was in primary school. It was published when I was in primary. But False Starts in Africa, if you read it today, and you just made some few changes. The dangerous thing is that you think that a book that was published in 1962 was published 2 weeks ago. It tells you the lack of development in Africa. That what Debray, condemned with data, statistics, and those were early days. 1962 was early days for most African countries. That the concentration on vanity projects, on gargantuan projects, also that you worship the God of small things. Even
back then in the 60s. I'm
talking about False Starts in Africa was published in 1962. You don't get what I'm saying? False Starts in Africa was published. I was 8 years old when it was published. How can we now, 60 years later, we're still, because everything he said was pulling back the progress of Africa. It's a classic. False Starts in Africa is a classic. We are still doing it today. All this commissioning of projects that you've seen. Debray said in 1962 that this thing is actually bringing down the development process. Because if you build all these vanity projects, they cannot be sustained. But a kilometer of rural roads, by opening up the agricultural produce of that rural community, it has a multiplier effect, because not only will the farmer produce more, the multiplier effect is that over a period of time, it will trigger off cottage industries in Osogbo. You will start having tomato processing factories in Osogbo, Ife, Iwo. You get what I mean? Now, look at the revenue generating bit. I'm sorry to say it quickly, so I'm saying, all the fancy projects you have been building, all your Guntan overhead bridges and stuff, what is the return on investment compared to the return on investment if you just link up a rural community and bring in their produce, eventually turning it into small processing plants?
All right. Okay. So, I mean, Mr. Babalola, just
sorry, I digress.
Of course, no problem. So, I mean, so from the report we got from Anambra State, if you were giving us an insight into what's happening there, it's for security, which is the main concern of many people from that part of the country. So, it's been quite silent and peaceful from that end. But then, of utmost concern is the fact that we have late start of voting. In some places after 12, some places after 1.
Nigerians are unpredictable. If anybody is telling me today that there's going to be vote in the southeast, I doubt it even before now. You know, a lot of precipitation, political violence and what have you. But to some extent, we can hear that though it was a little bit delayed, but they are still casting their vote. Then let us now look at what happened. The unforeseen contingencies. And one of the things I want us to look at in political science, when I give you an input of support, you must give me an input of need. If you fail to do that, that means that will serve as another thing in my life, another factor that will not make me to come out and do my civic responsibility. So let me believe that Soludo in his own state came out at the time where when people are expecting that by now they must be rounding up on vote. But there may be a lot of unforeseen contingencies that must have warranted that. But I still want to say, I give kudos to the Southeast. For them to even come out to vote, honestly, it's a very good thing.
Very good one. Very good. I mean, so we do hope that we get some more good reports from outside of Osun, especially from the Southeast. But we got reports, the one about Abia, where people were said to have died. It's also very worrying, very disturbing.
Exactly. When you look at the rate of political violence, especially the Abia state that we have just mentioned and some other places, I said the other time that when you look at Nigeria, whenever we are having political menstruation, before the election, you will see this kind of violence among the political party. It's an intra-party affair. During the election, it's always peaceful. After the election, it's another thing we are still going to wait for. But when we look back at what we have been doing since 1999, we have only a pocket of violence after the election. But before the election, when they are conducting their primaries, that is when you will see that they will let air loose on Nigerians. So, what has happened in Abia State, I want to believe that I count it as a mistake, and I know that with the effect of the security operatives, they'll be able to stop all those siege over Abia State.
All right, so I understand that some week the governor of Rivers State eventually voted.
The contentious.
That's some good news from that end also. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue our conversations, taking more reports from the field, and then also we'll be breaking down some of the data we have regarding violence in the lead up to these elections, looking at some of the states that are projected to, have, crises. We'll be looking at that and looking at some of the facts when we return from this break.
Mr. Olani, welcome.
de tafi parawa. O masibo mi matale lo. Our strength is in our diversity. Let's live together, together now. Let's live together. Let's live, let's live, let's live together. We gotta live together, yeah. Let's live together. Yeah, can't be no full on.
Wana muzama tare muzama daya mujina kasam yayi karfi shikin rike hannuna muzama tare zuriya mu dama da amma mu hadu fada da make yi mu dan wana muzama tare muzama daya mujina kasam yayi karfi rike hannuna je ka iya zo wada da Hausa je ka iya zo wada da Yoruba je ka iya zo wada da Igbo wadada ibibiyo Jeka iya zo wadada fulani Jeka iya zo wadada ibiri Jeka iya zo wadada urobo Wadada edo Wadada kanu Wadada Make we live together. Oh, let's live. Make we live together. Please, let's live. Make we live together. And don't you forget.
Embrace it, dance in the rain. It's for my seed to grow. For every prayer and every seed I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green. Oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me. Standing alone can be a heavy load, but my vows I won't be breaking. Though my heart is aching, I got a word and I won't let go. It's your will I'm seeking, so I keep on believing. I see it now, I understand, I know, so I embrace it, dance. Once again, it's time for me to grow. For every prayer and every tear I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping joy 100-fold. The land is green, it's green. Oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. I thought it was over, thought you were done with me, but we're just beginning. Whoa, my life is a journey. I will walk with you, I will go where you want me to. Yes, I will go. Come on. Yeah. Nàìjíríà yìí tí gbogbo wa ní kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́ torí kò sí ibòmíràn tí a lè lọ àjò lè dàbí ilé ẹ jẹ́ ká sowọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan gbé kémi gbé. Nàìjíríà yìí tí gbogbo wa ní kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́ torí kò sí ibòmíràn tí a lè lọ àjò lè dàbí ilé ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan gbé kémi gbé.
Ó yẹ kájọ ṣàṣàrò ló dára ká finú inú ká fi kún lókun kí Nàìjíríà kó lè tẹ̀síwájú. Ogun ọ̀tẹ̀ yìí ti tó ká gbàgbé ìjà ẹlẹ́yàmẹ̀yà Haúsá Ìgbò pẹ̀lú Yorùbá ṣe láṣàjọjì ìjà òmìnira ni a tún mára wájà èdìrẹ́ ogun èṣù yìí gbé kájọ gbé. Ó yẹ kájọ gbé.
Ibòmíràn tí a lè lọ àjò lè dàbí ilé ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan gbé kémi gbé.
Ọmọ ìyá kan náà ṣàlàjẹ́ ìjà lóde torí lòwe
nípa ọ̀rọ̀ òṣèlú wa èyí ló kó bá gbogbo wa o ló kó bá ọrọ̀ ajé wa.
torí kò má lè ṣe kí ìjà máa wà ìjàmbá ti tó kábàárì àlùyá.
Torí àwọn ọmọ wa tí ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn kí la fẹ́ sọ pé àgbélé ayé ṣe gbé kájọ gbé. Ó yá kájọ gbé.
Kémi gbé.
Ó yá kájọ gbé.
Kémi gbé. Nàìjíríà yìí tí gbogbo wa ní kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́ torí kò sí ibòmíràn tí a lè lọ àjò lè dàbí ilé ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́pọ̀ ká fìmọ̀ ṣọ̀kan gbé kémi gbé.
Yes! Come, my brothers and sisters. All that you I don't care attitude no be a more. You say which one concern you? Make you think the thing well. Because Andrew will check out few days here. So make I tell you whether you be Yoruba, Hausa or Igbo. All not the same. Nigeria,
Make we live time.
was Germany, France was Britain. Yeah, shaping we know, and they suffer before. Sincerity plus hard work, now it make them okay the best today. Everybody want to become citizen, brothers and sisters, make we no give up. If today bitter, tomorrow will be better. If today bitter, tomorrow will be better. Not you do at the top, not you at the top. Make me lift up. Make me lift Nigeria. Make a lead. It's Nigeria, now we home. Making no Africa. No place where we like our home. Home, sweet home. Make we join and think alike. Please take a lead. Nigeria tó rò mímímí. Ohun tó bàjẹ́ tún lè láǹtún ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ nìyẹn. The way forward, na it be this. Make we work for better Nigeria. Whatever we sow, na it we go reap. Make we work for better Nigeria. In the name of the Most High, I beg you live good. I beg you live good in the spirit of bread and wood. Fade away, oh ye spirit of segregation. Move away, oh ye spirit of nepotism. I beg you, please listen to me. Make we walk for better Nigeria. The more we live together we shall be. Make we walk for better Nigeria. Together we stand, divided we fall. Make we walk for better Nigeria. If you are a leader, please show good example. Make we walk for better Nigeria. Just like the Father.
One man, just one man, say just one man, that man will go change things for Nigeria. All we need is one man, we go make all things go right. All we need is one man, we go make Nigeria unite. That man we go take us to the next level. One man, one vote. Maybe that's ordinary man we go use our trust everything's supposed to be plenty. Everything's supposed to be jolly day. Now who go make the changes? One man, one vote. No gonna go say vote. They never say your vote for your vote. Vote for that man, we go want our test. This one man, we go make all things go right. This one man, we go make Nigeria unite. One man, one vote. That man we go take us to the next level. One man, one vote. Maybe that's ordinary man we go use our trust election, yeah, don't show again. So many people, them they plan to sell their vote again. Nothing you want gain, a destruction you cause again. Vote for that man when you trust and you know you will. That man when you know say he what it. The man will get so much ability. Yeah, hello mommy and daddy. The man we go change our country. This one man, we go make all things go right. This one man, we go make Nigeria unite. One man, one vote. That man we go take us to the next level. One man, one vote. Maybe that's ordinary man we go use our trust It's another one coming from me now. This is just reality, no this ain't a lie. My name is Solly Stamps and it's on the right side. I'm taking no side with anyone now. Team twice, I realize. You no matter how we be, make you stay alive. Don't play, I also make us speak my mind. Cause I know say one day, everything gonna end so right. We gon' make all things so right. I mean, it's one man. We gon' make Nigeria unite. One man, one wonder. That man we go take us to the next level. One man, one vote. Maybe that's ordinary man we go use our trust in get it cool, man. We need one man, just one man, just one man. That man we go change things for Nigeria.
That's what we want in this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Cause when 12 and 5 to the grass, they suffer. Innocent people go they run, pick over. North and south go they turn on each other. But instead to fight ourselves, make we fight Ebola. Instead of fighting corruption, making no day. Some people not to do, make Niger no day. Them running everywhere. So when seas of discord in the air, no matter what thing happen, them I just don't care. Most of them know they really live for here. They don't come back again this year, but no fear. I hear them say this is a do or die affair. But we don't want nobody to come start a ground for here. Vote not fight, that's what we want in this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Hey. Instead of the first politics, not to dance in Shabba. The only thing we concern them, not the rubber. All this complaint, I don't make fed up. We don't travel that lane, see where we end up. So which can Nigeria you want to see? How I want make it be? Share the Nigeria where things they walk. Guy, join hands to make you know God. The youth of today, we got a very big say. It is our life, it is our future. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, future we bright, a product of peace, not war. Vote, not fight. Election, no be war. Because when it's scatter, now you know some people will die. One love. Now super people, paradise. Now everything is a big country. Past to really come Nigeria. Thank you very much. The world is enough for words. Shine your eyes.
as a people with one song, with one voice. We're a nation undivided and poised. We will take us down and build our land. as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom reigns and truth prevails. Our land where there's hope for us all. Our land where there's hope for us all. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll defend our land. We believe in Nigeria and the promise she holds, and that one day we'll shine like the sun. We're a great nation. Though we are many people, different tribes, different tongues, we're united in our strength and resolve to uphold the honor of our land and for generations to come. And for generations to come.